Welcome to Peaking. In this episode, I talk with William Loopesko, CTO and co-founder of Aclymate. William shares his experiences starting in geology and hydrology, starting his own company based on something with his pet, moved into protecting the environment with Aclymate, shaping his current professional aspirations. He reflects on being an entrepreneur twice, building startups from scratch, different business lessons, and camping in Colorado. Hope you enjoy. Thank you. All right, listen up. If you're looking for a clean, discreet, tasty way to kick those cravings, Zippix toothpicks are your new go-to. Each pick is just loaded with 2 milligrams of nicotine, enough to take the edge off without knocking you off your rocker. No need to fumble with bulky pouches or reach for something worse. With killer flavors, cinnamon, wintergreen, sweet whiskey, Zippix, the perfect low-key companion, whether you're grinding through meetings, hitting the road, or just chilling. Less potent than pouches, way better than poisoning yourself with cigarettes. So whether you're the corporate bro hustling in a corner office or a journeyman chasing the next big thing, Zippix has your back. Stay sharp, stay fresh, keep your cool, one pick at a time. Use the code PEAKING at checkout. That's zippixtoothpicks.com. Get the fix without the fuss. William, welcome to Peaking. Pleasure to have you. Wanted to get started, a little bit of a warm up, easier question. You're a camper. You're from Colorado. What's the best camping destination in Colorado and the best story you have on a camping trip?
Oh man, I don't know if that's an easier one. That's like asking someone to choose their favorite child. I think it really depends on what you're looking for. Colorado has so much of all of the things. So I'll tell you my favorite destination,
Of
but this would
course.
be most people's. Every year I do a trip into the Inner Yampa River Gorge and Dinosaur National Monument. Um, this is an area that's so remote that all of the park rangers I've spoken to have never heard of it, even though they are park rangers in that park. So you have to drive on a dirt road for a long time, and then you bushwhack for several hours, and we end up like down in the gorge camping on this beach. We use that as a base camp for our climbing and canyoneering for a couple of days, and then we hike out. A couple of years ago on this trip, I went with a buddy who's studying geology in college, and we like discovered this really, and I was a geologist in college too, and we discovered this really cool looking rock. And so we took a bunch of pictures and he came back and showed it to his professors who were like, that's an amazing looking rock. Can you go get it? We got permits from the park and we went back the next year and hiked it out. And we don't think it's a dinosaur bone, but it's definitely some kind of fossil. And so now he's doing his thesis on that.
No
Uh,
way.
so that's pretty cool. And then last year, also, while we were bushwhacking around back there in that same area, we discovered a new archaeological site that had previously been undocumented by the park archaeologist. So probably going to go back this summer and like go do that with the park archaeologist to document this new site.
Wow, that is so neat.
Yeah.
What does that look like? You just close off the area and just start picking away?
Yeah, so this was like some kind of old cabin from a prospector or a miner or something. And we just like sort of stumbled upon it. So we took a bunch of pictures, took some videos to be able to share with the park archaeologists. And then, yeah, they want to go back and have us like take them to that spot so they can do the work that they do, I guess.
That's so cool. When you say bushwhacking, you're going into the forest with a machete? Are we
I
talking?
mean, it's not much of a forest, but I mean, there's no trails anywhere. So you're just like hiking cross terrain. You have to cross the river multiple times, like chest deep river crossings. Yeah, it's just like walking off into the field. No trail of any kind. Just
And that's on BLM land, or you can just do that anywhere?
it's national monument.
And they don't mind. You can.
Not in that park. It's so remote. No one ever goes there. Like I've never seen another human being back there.
That's funny. So for the listeners not from Colorado, Colorado has 56 mountains over 14,000 with perfect trails up to the peak for the most part. Some of the trails are actually more difficult. And then they have, dozens and dozens of 13,000 feet mountains with trails that you can hike on, and hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of camping sites. But when you're born in Colorado and you spend your whole life here, you have to start bushwhacking to get the same experience. You have to get out there and find archaeological sites to get that same itch scratched.
I mean, yeah, I think, as an entrepreneur, I've got like different itches than most people do. So yeah, the trails don't quite do it for me.
That's hilarious. That's good stuff. And then I need to know about that bike too. Is that often used, or what's the last trip you went on?
I bike to work every day. So I don't actually own a car. So bike is my primary form of transportation.
Wow, that is neat. I haven't owned a car once, but I was in Munich where the public transit was just you didn't need it at all. And then we're a one-car family for a bit, and we'd like to get back there, but my current training schedule is very helpful with the second car. But I'd like to be on your level. I'm just so worried about getting hit. It's just like terrifies me.
Yeah. I try to stick to the smaller streets. I live in a central part of Denver where everything is close, so I'm never going too far.
Yeah, that's fair. Awesome. So let's talk about Aclymate. That's how you prefer to pronounce it, right? Aclymate?
Aclymate, yeah.
Yep, very cool project. Did a little research on kind of where you came from, what you started. Self-taught programmer. Obviously, you just mentioned you started in geology. I guess before we jump to Aclymate, how did you switch from geology to let me get into programming?
Yeah, so that was certainly never the intention, right? I got a master's degree in hydrology, bachelor's in geology, went to work as a water engineer for 3 years, and then just realized that working for other people really isn't for me at all, which I think is probably something that a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to. So I had this idea for a company that was inspired by my dog. That was my first company.
Yes.
And
Pup
Tech, yeah. Lots of stories about Pup Tech if we want to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, my boss got laid off. And that was sort of the impetus I needed to just be like, I don't want to be that person who gets laid off. And if I don't want to do that, I should just start my own company. So I quit and started, a company inspired by my dog. I was just some dumb 28-year-old kid who knew nothing about business or tech, but somehow thought that he could start a tech company. And then somewhere along the way, after about a year of trying to raise money for a product that didn't exist and being told that that's not how it works, I realized that if I wanted this product to exist, I needed to figure out how to build it. So I taught myself how to code, and then figured out that I really liked it. And so then when PubTech, unfortunately, died during the pandemic, I had the skills I needed to jump into a new company, Aclymate, sort of as the CTO. And just sort of, I just started coding 7-8 years ago and never stopped.
So how did you get the co-founder, who I understand is a big name in the climate world, at least here in the United States? I'm not sure about internationally, but how did you get him to believe in your ability technically to run the entire technical department?
Look, when you're a small startup, you don't have much of a choice. I don't know how much I got him to believe, other than I had done it for my own company, so I had shown that I had the dedication to do it, and I was willing to do it for him, and I was willing to jump in and ride on board. So I don't know if I would have been the first choice, but I was kind of the only choice. We're looking for someone to build this idea. I'm looking for someone to build this idea. You know how to build things. Do you want to do it?
Yeah,
it's Mike and I. It's worked out great. I love working with Mike, and I think vice versa. But it's just when you're trying to start a company, you just need to sort of take a gamble sometimes on.
Yeah, at least in the bootstrapping, or starting without funding.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about that. The origin story. How did that come about?
Yeah, man. So PubTech died right at the beginning of the pandemic, and
R.I.P.
yeah, RIP. And I went into quarantine like everyone else. Uh, but I had no job and nothing, and because my company had just died, so it was kind of more a quarantine for me. It was like a refocusing my life kind of time, and I really realized that I wanted to just start another company, and I really didn't want to go back to work for someone. So I um, posted on LinkedIn, and Mike, who I had met several years before just through networking, reached out and was like, "Hey, like, we have this idea. You know how to code? Like, come talk to us." So for on Mike's end, his story is he was a fighter pilot in the Navy. He flew F-18s, landed on aircraft carriers, Top Gun, the whole thing. Um, but then when he was a kid, there was a big fire in Idaho where he grew up, and the adults told him the trees are going to grow back. And then when he got married, when he was still in the Navy, he brought his wife out to see the place where he had grown up, and the trees had not grown back. And it bumped him out. It's 20 years later, trees still haven't grown back. So he set out to do something about that. So when he left the Navy, he started a company called Renew West, and their whole thing was carbon reforestation. So planting trees to generate carbon offsets, and at the same time, reforest areas of the West that had been degraded by wildfires. And he did that for about 5 years. Ended up planning the largest carbon reforestation project in the country. And then, but they realized that, like, in order to impact climate change at scale, you need something that can actually scale, which is not tree planting. Tree planting is hard to scale. Software is something that's much more scalable. So that's when he decided to pivot from tree planting into a concept more like Aclymate, and then brought me on board to help build that dream.
And so, in terms of, I don't know, maybe getting ahead of myself here, but the offsetting aspect, the scaling aspect, a lot of what you do is you're building a product that allows companies to assess their carbon impact and then offset it with credits. And then those credits will go to fund projects that are accredited by independent third-party agencies, organizations, global agencies that are carbon sequestration projects or certain things like that. Is that correct, or what does that landscape look like? What am I missing there?
Yeah, that's basically correct. So Aclymate is a carbon accounting, really like climate impact platform for small businesses. So we help small and medium businesses measure, reduce, and offset their carbon footprint, and in that order. That's important because you got to measure it first, and then from there, you really should reduce it before you offset it. Offset it should really be the last thing that you do to offset the part that you can't reduce, at least not right away. But like all of it starts with measuring and reporting. So most of our customers actually are much more interested in the measuring and reporting part than they are in the offsetting part for now. So that's by far the vast majority of our business right now is measuring and reporting, and like doing some reductions planning. Offsetting is a component of that. And so we do have what we think is the largest retail carbon market, a carbon offset market for small businesses. It's the biggest we've seen. And some of our customers choose to go that route, but a lot of them don't feel like they need to.
So the reducing, I mean, first measuring, you're just like, how many cars do you have? Where are you outsourcing to? Where are your products being manufactured? How many miles are you putting on your car or vehicles?
Flights, employee commuting, pretty much anything you buy, who you're buying it from, things you're shipping, offices, utilities, those kinds of things.
Do you have any insight into the average American employee carbon cost versus any other country?
Yeah, I mean, ours are higher because because that's just what we do here in America.
We fly and drive.
For example, like our electricity is on average a lot dirtier than it is in other countries, like Canada. And so just having an office with utilities by default is going to be much dirtier than if you had an office, the exact same size office in Canada or in Europe. Our grid is just dirtier than it is in Canada. So it really depends on which industry you're in. Obviously, some industries are, much worse than others. But the average we use is about like 3 tons per employee per year.
So put that in measurements of trees. How many oak trees is 3 tons of carbon?
Oh man, I'd have to go back and look at the calculations that we all have internally. But I think roughly it's. I actually don't know if I know that off the top of my head.
No, that was a silly question. I didn't expect you to have an answer for it. Climate's tough for me because the whole world is not on the same page, and you have these enormous countries that caution to the wind. I guess they're just expecting that things will be fine, and they're just gonna deal with it. And you have Canada, and I think Canada has reduced this enormous amount in comparison to their economy, or in comparison to what they were doing. It was like a 40% reduction or something like that. I don't know the exact number. Don't quote me on that. But the amount they reduced is 13 minutes of China's production. And it's just, that came at a cost. If you reduce energy, that comes at a cost to the everyday man and woman in the country. And, maybe not for people that have very nice careers, but to much of the country, that does come at a cost. So it's just it's a tough problem if you're in a Western country, because you're kind of trying to pull the weight, but I guess the country's leaders aren't either. I don't think the United States is that great with it.
No, it's certainly not. No, I mean, I think a lot of other countries are looking to countries, historically, prior to January 20th of this year, had been looking to the United States as a country to be able to lead on these sort of big global problems. And unfortunately, we just haven't been stepping up. And so other countries have. Europe and Canada, are among the two sort of regions that are really leading the charge. California, not a country, but they've decided to sort of take matters into their own hands and do it despite sort of federal regulations telling them to. So there are areas that are starting to do it. I think the reality is it doesn't have to be more expensive. In a lot of places, renewable energy is becoming cheaper than fossil fuel energy. And so it is absolutely possible to grow your economy and to decarbonize your economy at the same time. And that's what we help small businesses do.
Yeah.
Grow their company while decarbonizing.
Yeah, you're not trying to solve the macro problems. You're just trying to help businesses account for.
Well, I mean, we see that as a way of addressing the macro problem, right? Yeah. Every business were to do this, then that could make a huge impact on the planet. But certainly, it's not the only thing that's needed. And so we see ourselves as one of what needs to be hundreds, thousands of solutions to address climate change.
Absolutely. And do you have accounting for offshore manufacturing? How do you work that in? Do you just trust?
Yeah. So we offshore, we can calculate emissions from both the stuff that you buy. So there are methodologies for calculating sort of the impact of a water bottle, sort of industry averages. And we have that, but then we also separately can measure the shipping and the emissions related to shipping that water bottle from wherever it's coming from to to your office, or shipping it from your office, your factory, to your customers. So we can look at a company's supply chain and then figure out the emissions factors for each of the components in that supply chain, and then from there the emissions associated with shipping all of those components in that supply chain.
Do you find that offshore manufacturing is a much higher carbon cost than onshore, or do you have any customers that do onshore manufacturing?
We do have some customers that manufacture onshore, and honestly, it depends. I mean, it really depends on like the inputs from the grid and sort of their components, and then obviously shipping is a huge part of it. But if you're shipping things in bulk, I mean, yeah, there's no like hard and fast rules. It really depends. There's so many variables, and that's part of the complexity that we're trying to take.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And these are not scripted questions. This is just like kind of curiosity, and I'm not expecting you to have all the answers here. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know a ton about the industry. I hear a lot of sound bites. I hear a lot of podcasts, listen to a lot of podcasts of differing views and strategies and what people do. So it's really cool to talk to someone in the space. If we were to kind of switch to company building, I think that's a large purpose of the podcast that I'm looking to build, and just kind of talking with founders here in Denver and connecting founders in Denver as well. How about a company building belief that you have that others might disagree with you on?
Yeah, I think one thing that we've tried to avoid a lot at Aclymate is just chasing bright, shiny objects. And a lot of companies will have to go all in on chasing bright, shiny objects. So the two most recently that companies have tried to get all in on is AI, and before that, sort of crypto and blockchain and all that stuff. We now do have AI integrated into our product, but it took us a while to get there because we weren't trying to force it in. I feel a lot of companies, startups especially, you want to be the hot, thing that everyone's talking about, and everyone's talking about AI, and investors, if you're pitching to them, like want to see that you have AI in your pitch. But we resisted that because we want to build instead like what our customers are telling us that they want, instead of just like what's hot and trendy. And for a long time, our customers didn't need us to put AI into our product, so we didn't. And it was only when we faced a big problem from our customers that needed AI to solve that then we decided to put AI into the product. And now we can say that our carbon accounting engine is AI powered, but that's not why we did it. So I think a lot of companies can waste a lot of resources, especially early stage companies trying to build a product that their customers aren't asking for because they're solving the problem. They're trying to solve a problem for their investors instead of solving problems for their customers. And we've always been really focused on trying to solve our problems for our customers.
Yeah, I definitely have heard of so many stories of that, just chasing something early. It definitely happens more often with the early stage company, a recent founder typically, and you go down that rabbit hole, and it just...
Yeah, like, hey, AI is the cool thing that like everyone is talking about. So like we need to have AI in our product. No, I mean, our product is not... Having AI in it is not necessarily going to help us solve our customers' problems. And that's really all we're focused on, is trying to solve our customers' problems.
Are you actively working or talking with investors, or you have like board members that are asking questions like that?
No, we are pretty lucky in that our investors have taken a relatively hands-off approach and let us, just trust us to run the company. We are not, and we are not trying to necessarily impress any, VCs who would necessarily just want to invest in us because like they think AI is cool. Again, we're not trying to solve any problems for our investors. We're trying to solve problems for our customers.
So circling back to that reasoning for getting AI in the product, you said that there was a problem that sounded interesting. What was the impetus for starting to think about using AI in your product?
Yeah, so as we started about a year ago, we built that supply chain functionality that we were just talking about, which was being able to take, hundreds of thousands of rows of financial transactions data and convert that into emissions factor. When we started building that feature, we didn't start with 100,000 rows. We started with 5,000 because we were smaller companies that were giving us just smaller data sets. And the problem was you had to go through and you had to categorize all of the vendors that you were buying stuff from. So if you bought 100 things from United and you say United is a flight, well then boom, everything that you bought from United is now categorized as a flight. And that works pretty well if you have like 100 vendors. But what if you have 1,000 or 10,000? All of a sudden that process becomes super laborious. And so that was the problem that we needed to solve for our customers was they had to input just hundreds, if not thousands, of vendor categorizations, and it would take them days or longer just to be able to use our product. And that's a terrible product. So we ended up using AI to help us with the vendor categorization. And we have a guy, we have a service internal to our team, our turnkey service, and we have a team of people that's doing that. So I was on a call with one of those guys where we built this product specifically for him because he was the one who was getting sent a lot of these gigantic data sets, and he would have to manually categorize all the vendors, and it would take him a week or more to do one company. And I remember the first time we tested this product, he gave me one of his data sets and I loaded it in, and we took what would have taken a week for him to categorize and we processed it in half an hour.
Yes.
And so, that's where things start to get a little more scalable. And so that's where AI was a really great application for us, but it didn't, we started using that as a result of having this really big problem of we needed to be able to scale our processes a lot faster to meet data from our actual needs, data requirements from our actual customers. Yeah.
What was the technical project there? What did that look like from a tool standpoint and how you did it?
We're using OpenAI to help us with all the vendor categorization.
So you input a prompt, you tell it what it's receiving, and then it just gives you the value in the right place you want it.
We want you to categorize it in this way with these factors, et cetera, according to this categorization scheme, blah, blah, blah. And then it sends us back the data. Yeah.
And you're using 4.0 Mini probably for that?
I believe so, yeah. I don't remember.
It's just 0.00 or 0.01 cent per token or something per search.
You get 10,000 per day for free or something like that. Yeah.
Is that real?
They have a free tier. Yeah, for sure.
So everything you guys run is free so far?
No, it depends on the customer. There are some days when if we're processing 100,000 transactions in a day, it's not free, but it's very
$2.
Yeah, it might be $2.
And is that in terms of technical challenge, how does that compare with what you've previously done? Was that pretty simple to figure out?
That part specifically was pretty simple to figure out, but the harder part was the performance around how do we manage processing so much data and then displaying so much data and making it intuitive and interactive for our users to be able to access that much data without just completely bogging down their browser. So that was the harder technical part.
That makes sense. The AI itself has spit out accurate results for everything.
Yeah, we did a lot of testing with data sets. We would compare data sets that we had categorized by hand to data sets that we were categorizing with AI, and for the most part, it's really good.
Nice. Yeah, there's a AI product company in Boulder called Free Play. They are essentially partnering with companies that use AI APIs, and you can have all 5. Claude, OpenAI, Grok, and you can run everything, and it's like a grader, I think. That's kind of what it does. Pretty interesting. They host the Denver and Boulder AI Builders meetup, and it's huge already. There's 100, 200 people on the wait list, and there's 200 people in the room. It's there definitely is interest here in Denver, which is pretty exciting. You don't typically think of Denver as it would get that many people, but it is pretty big, pretty exciting.
Yeah, like I said, AI is sort of the hot new thing that everyone wants to be a part of. So that does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, there are some company presentations that are really neat and others that are just I don't know if anyone's going to use that. I read a article, I think the Medium article with your interview, and talked about how you picked a partner for software engineering that had a background in design as well, and how to make the importance of a beautiful product. And I'm seeing that more and more in my recruit for other startups that are trying to build a product that people want to use. And as a consumer, and probably a lot of listeners of this pod that don't build things, that aren't thinking about creating a user interface that is desirable, we kind of just use stuff and we just, assume that it kind of happened and everything works well. And, we're pretty addicted to certain things that were designed to be addicting. And a lot of the products we use probably have very attractive UIs, and that's why we use them, but we don't think about it. Accounting software is one of those where, most people don't think about UI being the focus of what they're doing, but it was something that you kind of called out as like, we need this to be a beautiful product. Kind of talk through that in terms of why that was important to you and the impact you've seen from it.
Absolutely. So our whole, the whole concept of Aclymate is that we want to make carbon accounting, intuitive and accessible to people who are not experts in carbon accounting. So we designed our product specifically for the non-experts who don't even necessarily know where to start. And so for that, we have to basically be their guide, and the software has to be their guide. So, UI is probably the single thing we work on the most in our product, and constantly just tweaking it, changing it, moving buttons around, rewording things, because our customers, they need to just be able, it needs to be so easy to use that they don't have an excuse not to use it. And so we spent a lot of time with the product team just thinking through different flows, trying to make sure that things are as intuitive. We're the experts in our product, so something that makes sense to us might not make sense to our customers. And so we have a constant feedback loop of our customer success team talking to me about the challenges that our customers are facing, then me brainstorming, I'm brainstorming with the customer team ways in which we can improve that, and then we'll ship an update, and then he'll get feedback on that, and then it's a constant feedback cycle, because I think UI is the single most important aspect of our product that really differentiates us for our target customers, right? I mean, our product needs to be, our calculations need to be accurate, our reporting needs to be correct, all right, but those are just table stakes, and all of the carbon accounting tools out there are doing that. We also want to make it so that you can really figure this out, even if you know nothing about carbon accounting. And a lot of our competitors aren't doing that because they're designed more for experts than our software is.
For the consultant class, or
right, or chief sustainability officers, or those kinds of corporate sustainability experts. And the companies that we work with don't have that in-house expertise.
Nor do they necessarily want to yet. It's not their focus.
They shouldn't need to. That can be expensive. And so our software and our team is their in-house sustainability expertise, and we need to make that as accessible to them as possible. And we do that through good UI. And our UI is far from perfect. We're constantly improving it, but we have heard from many of our customers that they do really like the way that we've presented it, and that, it's good. So that doesn't mean it's good enough. We're still always looking to improve it. But,
so each time you hear something and then you ship the update, is that updating with every customer, or do you have different, every customer?
For the most part, I mean, we do have it's called a feature flagging system, where we can turn features on for certain customers, or turn features on progressively, hey, show this to 10% of users who come on this day, and then 20%, et cetera. But typically we just ship it out for everyone. I mean, we're aggregating all the feedback from all of our customers into what we think is going to be a solution that applies to all.
Nice.
So we're not trying to build bespoke software for any of our customers per se.
Yeah,
we want our software to work for any business.
Yeah, I've always been the tech guy in the teams that I've been a part of, people have no interest in learning new software tools, or it's just so difficult to get people to implement, start using new software tools. And so I've kind of been the implementation guy, learning the tool and then, pitching it to the tool. And there's often times where you can really tell that a software tool or product is built by people who just think that people are going to get it. And it's way more complicated than it needs to be. Something might be 6 clicks when it should just be 1. It might be 2. And it happens so often in the SaaS world. It kind of is surprising. If you think of the average person, you lose them after 3 clicks probably. Like there's probably a stat out there on the adoption rates and how many clicks they need to get to a certain point.
There is. And so we like count clicks very carefully. We really think about the order in which we present information and different calls to action. And like I said, we're far from perfect. I don't think we'll ever get to perfect, but we do spend a lot of time thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, there is no perfect, and if you were to get there, the next day it would be a different standard. Things change so fast too.
Exactly.
You look at Oracle's website versus Facebook, obviously way different product, but the design styles are so different as time goes on. Business building has a slew of challenges, and one of them is dealing with just about everything. You can't slink away from any duty because there's not enough people to hand things off to, or you can't blame it on the bureaucracy yet. That's one of the reasons that I needed to get out of corporate, is just blaming it on the bureaucracy. It's like, no, someone is accountable. Who is it? But you have to deal with difficult customers, even if you're the tech side, perhaps. You mentioned that you might have a good story around a difficult customer and how you resolved that and made it work.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of already went over it. It was the customer that had the thousands and thousands of vendors that we needed to categorize, and that was able to force us to rapidly innovate and integrate into our product. We're kind of going through the same thing right now where as we're growing, we are seeing a lot of different kinds of data that our customers want us to ingest, and we're spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to get that data into a format that our software can understand and can read. And so every time we get those, in fact, I was just on a call for an hour and a half right before this, talking through that with our customer team. How are we we have 10 different CSVs in 10 different formats. How are we going to possibly unify them into something that we can read without having to redo them all by hand? So those problems feel really hard. This is a super manual, labor intensive thing that we got to do and we got to figure it out. But those are always great opportunities for us to innovate, right? And to come up with a creative solution that actually meets a need that our customers are facing, that's going to allow us to just scale up to the next level of being able to serve our customers better and faster. So, right now we have our customers are throwing us a lot of really challenging data problems, and so I'm excited. It feels really hard right now, but I'm excited to see sort of what cool innovation comes out of it, like we've done in the past with the AI thing 6 months ago.
Yeah, absolutely. How big is your technical team?
It's myself and another engineer.
So 2 people solving all these problems while keeping the product up and running.
Correct.
And that's worked, obviously.
It's worked so far. We're scrappy. We're a startup.
That's what you have to be. What's the limit there? You think there is a limit number of customers or a new product load?
I think no. I mean, yes, there is an upper limit. I don't know, 10,000, right? It's nowhere. We're nowhere close to it. The whole idea of software is it can scale.
Yep.
Right. So our infrastructure, a lot of times for software companies, the limiting factor is their infrastructure. Our infrastructure can scale just fine. We've had some performance bottlenecks that we've had to work through. We talked a little bit about those, but and there's going to be some more challenges that we're going to have to resolve. But once we resolve those, that just opens it up to more customers. So we are a small engineering team, but we have been able to make our product work for a lot of customers, and I think that's going to continue to be the case for a long time.
Awesome. And is the company just the three of you, or how big? How many employees work
We've
for
got
Aclymate?
6.
10?
6.
Six. And what do the other people do?
We got my co-founder who's like doing sales, business development, fundraising, and then we have customer success and then marketing.
And marketing makes you do these?
Yeah, right. And like marketing makes everything pretty.
William, you gotta be on more podcasts. Get
Yeah,
out there.
you talk to more people. So I'm trying to talk to more people.
What's one thing that if you could go back and restart your Aclymate journey that you would want to tell yourself or go into knowing?
I think we probably should have spent more time. I'm a software engineer. I love building product. I think we probably could have spent more time at the beginning, almost like a consulting company, before we just jumped in and started to build a software product. So like doing all the accounting by hand or through spreadsheets and really learning about all the challenges that our software was going to have to fix, and then building the product based off of that knowledge instead of just starting right away of like, let's just build a really cool product. We've done a good job of adapting our product to that, but certainly there's been a lot of like dead ends and sort of workarounds that we've had to do. We've now gotten to the point where, from that, what we've learned is we should always try to do something manually before we automate it. So that's what we were doing with like the vendor categorization. As an example, is what we're doing now with this data spreadsheets problem that we're facing. Because by forcing ourselves to do it in a manual way, we really understand the process that our customers are going to have to go through. And then we can really make the software work in the way that they need it to. And so I think we could have done a little more of that up front. But that was just a lesson we've learned along the way.
Do you jump into this with customers up to bat, or how long did it take to kind of feel somewhat comfortable that the plane was in the air?
We had a handful of early customers. I don't know, like a half dozen or so that sort of served as our beta testers in the early days of the company when we were first building it out. They were invaluable to like testing the early versions of the app. But again, I think we could have done a lot of that work for them just manually on some spreadsheets to really understand the problem instead of like forcing them to use a product that maybe wasn't, fully baked at the time. I mean, we're talking about 4 years ago, so
Yeah.
our product certainly feels fully baked now. But we could have probably gotten there a little faster.
That's interesting. If you would have done that, would you have missed out on any lessons?
I mean, I think we would have missed out possibly on this lesson, of like do things manually before you automate them. I think we probably could have run the risk of telling ourselves that we knew everything about the problem sort of ahead of time, instead of realizing that like maybe we didn't and that we need to be constantly exploring the problem with our customers. Yeah, those are just the lessons we've learned along the way.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you're really customer focused, and as a product company, I think that's like number one. You have to be focused on what the customers actually want, and that is the North Star.
I think there's a lot of tech products out there that, you build something really cool and then you start off, then you go out and find like a problem for it to solve. And yeah, we've always been really focused on making sure that we are solving a real problem for real customers instead of theoretical ones.
Yeah, I think that has been a dead end for many a founder or creator, is building something that people are going to love this, but those people are not reachable or just don't exist. That kind of ties well into, I think, useful application of this pod for Denver founders or people thinking about getting into the founding world or jumping into a new company. What are some things that you think are really important for people to know before jumping in or as they're jumping into building a new company?
I get this question a lot, right? A lot of people are like, "Oh, you started a company? Like, I have an idea. What do you think?" And my standard answer for almost all of them is, "Don't do it." Uh, I think that there's a lot about starting a company that has been very glamorized, and it seems like a really cool, fun thing to do. And the honest answer is that for the most part, it's not. It's mostly just like a lot of hard work and being poor and working really hard. Um, I think that, most of the time when I'd say don't do it, it's because they're like my friends and I know them well enough to know that they would hate it.
Yeah.
Um, and I never mean it as like, I don't think you're smart enough to do it, or I don't think you're like capable enough to do it, or any of that thing. I just think you're gonna hate it. I think it is like, I know you well enough to know that you will not enjoy it because I think the two things that it really requires is like a very high tolerance for uncertainty and a very high tolerance for like suffering, and just grinding it out for years and years and years on end when most people would have quit. And I just think most people don't want to like suffer and grind for that long. And so you should just save yourself the trouble and not do it. That being said, if you are going to do it, just like be very honest with yourself about what you are willing to do to make this company a reality. When I started my first company, I sold my house and broke up with my girlfriend and moved back into my parents' basement for 6 years. And I just don't think most people are willing to do that. And so like, be really upfront with yourself of like, okay, what happens when 6 months from now I've burned through all my savings and I have nothing left. And the company is still nowhere close to being able to pay me a salary or to being off the ground. Like, then what do I do? Am I going to mortgage my house? Right? Like, I think having that kind of clarity up front just gives you a really real perspective on how far you're willing to go to do it, because it is inevitably going to be harder than you think it's going to be. And I think the great thing about all startup founders is we're all dreamers and we're all optimists, and we all think that our idea is like so amazing that it's going to change the world. And it could, but it's not going to do it right away. And so like, what are you going to do for those X number of years before it actually does start changing the world?
I have all of those, or have had all of those similar thoughts and experiences. I have my savings mapped out. How long can I survive? I probably was too aggressive in stocks. I probably should have had more in money market. The stock market is a little rocky right now. I don't think I'd mortgage my house. I think I'd find like a bartending gig, but I have a decent amount of runway. But employees that haven't jumped into a new company and are miserable, which sounds like you were in that situation, and I think a lot of people are. You don't know how easy your job is. It's so easy. You can, a lot of people in corporate America get away with doing so little, and the paycheck comes in either way.
And even if you're working hard, having a reliable paycheck is really nice. And yeah, you can always get laid off, right? Like that's always a possibility, but it is usually less of a possibility than like your company failing.
Yes.
And so I just don't think most people are ready to understand like, what it really means to like give up your paycheck for an undetermined amount of time, possibly years.
Yep.
For me, it was years.
Yeah. I'm not at a year yet, but we're almost at a year, and there's no stable paycheck yet. It definitely takes time, and you just have to establish your service or product, and then you have to find the customers for it, and they're separate. Those two things are not the same thing. As two separate challenges. In terms of building product and getting into the software world, what are you looking forward to most? Does technology still excite you, or are you just excited about problem solving? Do you see your product evolving into anything bigger? What do you see the future as technology-wise for?
Oh yeah, we have big plans for our technology. Yeah, our product is really good, but we want to expand it to, be able to capture more companies, more emissions, more reporting requirements, all of those things. So we want to be able to integrate with more data sources to automate a lot of the sort of more manual parts of the process right now. We want to be able to build new interfaces to allow our customers to access their data more easily, or to be able to get more out of it. We have big plans for really improving the way in which we do emissions reductions, and presenting our customers with more sort of tangible actions that they can take to start really reducing their emissions and hitting their reductions goals. And then we have this longer term vision of building more like a network to allow companies to be able, because if you're buying something from some company, those are both of your emissions, right? Company A and company B. This is this concept called scopes, and this whole technical part of carbon accounting. But basically, if you buy something from this company, they are emitting in making it for you, and you are emitting in buying it from them. And how do we connect those two? And so it's being able to trace emissions through the entire economy, from company to company to company to company to consumer to consumer to consumer, is going to require a lot more technology. So,
And you're going to build it with 2 people.
well, at some point we will hopefully have more than 2 people, but we're going to build a lot of it with 2 people. Yes.
How did you find that other engineer?
We just ran a simple hiring process. We were lucky; we had well over 100 candidates apply, so
Nice.
We were able to be a little picky.
Nice. No, that's the ideal situation. There's a lot of people applying to jobs right now.
Yeah.
And you put up a post for a somewhat standard job description, you're going to get hundreds. It's kind of odd. It doesn't quite work with the unemployment stats, but it seems like people are working, but then there's a lot of people that are not. So
I know it does feel like a really bad time to be looking for a job. So, yeah, I'm sure if we were to open up another job, we would have hundreds of applicants.
Yeah, I would agree. I've posted quite a few jobs here in the last couple of months. Let's see, maybe tone it down, seriousness a little. Just an interest or hobby you have outside of company building. Obviously, you talked about camping and archaeology. You could dive into those deeper, or anything else you like doing?
Yeah, climbing mountains, which I guess is related to that. I'm the chair of the Denver chapter of the American Alpine Club. So I organize climbing events, climbing meetups. I'm currently working on getting certified as a climbing instructor, so I can start teaching climbing clinics this summer through that organization. And I have some big ambitions for mountains that I want to go climb this summer. So I got to start training for that. So yeah.
You're talking about rock climbing,
rock climbing.
Yeah, with
ropes and all that stuff. Yeah.
Thought about getting. A lot of my friends got into it, and they absolutely love it. I'm a big guy.
It's really blown up in popularity, but climbing mountains. That's sort of what I want to be doing when I'm not coding.
If you have all the money in the world, are you still building product, or are you out there in the mountains all day, every day?
I think I would spend a lot more time up in the mountains, but I do love building product. And when I would be, not in the mountains, I'd probably be down here building product. Yeah.
Any pet peeves about people in the mountains?
LNT, leave no trace. We've only got one planet. I mean, it ties right back into Aclymate. We've only got one planet. Take care of it.
Yeah.
Don't leave garbage everywhere. Leave it better than you found it. That's definitely my pet peeve.
I was just on the beach. It was just a pristine beach in Eastern Australia, and it was just beautiful. And there's this mom, grandma, and son playing, just having a great time. And the grandma starts smoking a cigarette. And I'm like, I know for a fact she's going to drop this on the sand. I know it. And I'm just sitting on the beach, just enjoying the scenery, but keeping an eye on the cigarette, getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I tell my wife, if she drops that, I'm gonna pick it up and put it in her mouth. And my wife's like, no, you're not. It's like, okay, I'll put it in her purse. I was like, no, you're not. Leave it alone. And sure enough, she kicks a little hole and puts it in the sand. Oh, it just made me so mad. It's like, come on, this is a beautiful beach. It was a tourist. It was not an Australian. And just made me furious. I couldn't agree more on that. It's just so easy. It's so easy to not leave a mess.
I have a concept I got from some of my friends who are parents about a ticket. When you go outside, you need your ticket to the outdoors, and your ticket is one piece of garbage. So like every time you go outside, make sure you find your ticket to the outdoors and take it with you.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's a good rule. Anyone that loves the mountains, anyone that loves the outdoors, if you see something, you should be cleaning it up. Like, we are all stewards of it.
we only have one planet. We're all stewards of this planet. We all have to live on this planet together. We all should be stewards of it. So that's what I'm trying to do when I'm out there.
Yeah, hard to get everybody on the same page. So it's a culture thing. You have to be part of the culture. Or someone has to tell you. Otherwise, it's just
education thing.
Yeah, I'm not
What
from
we're
here.
trying to do with Aclymate too, just educating people about the importance of caring for the planet.
So how does someone get to using Aclymate? So is it a founder that just is caring about the emissions they're using? Are they trying to fit a certain government incentive? What prompts
So a lot
company to get to
sometimes
you?
it is just like the business owner really cares. More of the time, they have some kind of reason to do it. So it could be their employees are telling them that they have to, their customers are telling them that they have to. A lot of times it's for marketing, so they want to be able to post on their website that they're net zero or carbon neutral or whatever, because they've identified that that's something that really resonates with their target markets. Most often is because there's like a direct mandate from someone to do it. So a lot of our customers are in the supply chains of bigger companies like Microsoft, Clorox, et cetera. And those big companies are forcing all of the small companies they work with to do this. And so those companies don't know anything about doing this, and they turn to us and say, help.
I hired for Meta in my last position, and we hired GHG program managers multiple times. Or they needed someone to come in and kind of coordinate that for all of Meta's manufacturing processes. Yeah. Last bit I kind of want to get into is the offsetting aspect. Kind of curious on your thoughts, your opinions there. It doesn't necessarily need to be related to Aclymate. Seems like a somewhat contentious or debated topic. What are your thoughts?
We could do a whole separate podcast on this. But so the quick version is, like any nascent industry, the voluntary carbon market right now is kind of a mess. And there's no real regulatory oversight. There's not a whole lot of standards. There's a whole bunch of small players who are competing to try to set the rules, set the standards, set the industry benchmarks, all those things. There are some projects that are terrible. A lot of projects are great. A lot of them are somewhere in the middle. And certainly there have been a lot of projects, there has been a lot of press, and rightfully so, that has been paid to the ones that are terrible. And so we see part of our role as trying to educate our customers about what's good and what's not. But unfortunately, it's just a really, it's kind of the Wild West still. In that space. I do think that offsetting is a really important part of, as a whole, getting us to where we need to be climate-wise. We're just in the middle of the messiness of seeing that process play out.
Do you think that the solution is out there, it's just not being implemented?
I think that there are a lot of projects that are out there that are being implemented that are good, and so we need to incentivize projects that are doing good and disincentivize or call out the projects that are bad. And there are a lot of companies that are working on trying to call out projects that are bad, and making sure that people are buying only the good ones.
So you need a government administrator who is planning where these go, or does Offset, like, you have to buy credits from companies that have credits, right? Like Tesla sells a ton of their credits. Is that right? Do you know if that's true?
Know exactly how Tesla's doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the same thing in Monterey, California, where we lived for a while, or Carmel. They have water credits. So if you build a bathroom in your house, that takes 1 or half a credit of water. And if you don't have the credit, you can't build a bathroom. And it's next to the ocean, it's next to a river. There's a lot of water in the area, but you have to have these credits. And so Clint Eastwood owns this massive property, and Clint Eastwood is known on the Presidio for having extra water credits. And so my dad had to buy water credits from Clint Eastwood to get a bathroom in his new house remodel.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a direct.
No, I
parallel,
don't know if, like, strict government regulations are necessarily the answer. I think there's a role just in the private sector, companies like Aclymate, just making sure that people who are buying offsets understand what they're buying and what it means. And being able to just present that in a way that's, again, accessible and intuitive to people who are non-experts.
Awesome. Well, been a pleasure, William. What's one thing everyone should know about Aclymate?
Aclymate is for everyone. So everyone should use it. We've designed it for small and medium businesses, but we also just launched last week a new product called My Aclymate, which is for individuals to be able to understand their footprint. And so, climate change is a problem that's going to require all of us working together to solve. And so everyone has a role that they can play in solving climate change. Aclymate certainly is not the only solution, but we are excited to be a part of the solution.
Awesome. And where would an individual find that, access to that?
Aclymate.com.
Awesome. And any last words?
No, this has been great. Thank you so much. Like I said, everyone, if you don't know what to do, climate change can feel overwhelming.
Yes.
And the best way to deal with that feeling of overwhelm is to get involved and to do something, even something small, will end up making a difference in the long run. So
Awesome. Thank you so much, William. Been a pleasure peeking. Have a great rest of your day.
yeah, thanks. You too.
Awesome.